However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt.
Well, couldn't have said it any better myself.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
You're in violation of secure communication procedures, Commodore.
So we just went ahead and fixed the glitch.
There is no America. There is no democracy.
Our fifth objective, a new world order.
There are no nations. There are no monsters. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West.
Right-wing conspiracy.
What do you call it when the assassins accuse the assassin?
A new world order.
Thank you for plugging in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
Well, just a second there, Professor. We fixed the glitch.
I'm your host, Professor Thomas Henry Horan.
He reads everything.
Oh, you better bet your bippies he reads everything, you magnificent betards. Thank you. Mwah. Welcome back. I've got a couple of exciting developments. I'm going to, hi, Brandy. Oh, you won't be here till 6:30. Alpine won't be here till 5:45. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Baby Bull. Hi, 47. Hi, Gary. Okay, so let me run through a couple of things. I'm going to record. Maybe I'll get that out of the way first. I'm going to record a little video for Ashley Banfield in case she ever watches it. It'll be a little separate mini episode, and it's going to justify. She caught all this hell, and I'm going to prove to her, for her own satisfaction, if she ever watches it, that she was absolutely right. I'll get to that in a minute, probably. In the meantime, what should I do here? Berko. I have been handed a sack full of solid gold nuggets, many of which I have specifically been asking for years. That is all I can say at this time. Negotiations are underway. It's not a hostage-taking situation. It's just a quid pro quo kind of thing. Like, what do you want? So we're going to get together on that. In addition to that, I'll warn you, Baby Bull. In addition to that, Manny has apparently come into possession of Berkowitz's DD-214. Now, don't just go run into his YouTube channel website. Be subtle. Use tact and discretion. Be sneaky. Sniff around and see what you can find out. So he got at least part of the DD-214. I put the prof in professional. I thought I put the prof in professor. Oh, I see. You're responding to act professional. I got you. I should probably not oraculate so much in the middle of other people's discussions. In the meantime, so what's coming up next? This as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Hi, Brandy. As soon as possible, we'll get to this material. It is what I have been looking for and then some. And we may be tantalizingly again, find out if Manny has Berkowitz's army records. I only want to know one thing. Anything else is gravy. I just want to know what outfit he was in when he was in Korea. That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know. I know what it was, but I need to be... Is it possible to verify it? If I know it's possible to verify it, then that's all I need to know. I don't need to verify it. I know it. But I need to know if it's possible to verify it. But don't go stomping around. Don't go smashing any porcelain. Don't crack any cribs. Just keep your ears open. Calling all junior Blue Blazer irregulars in the tri-state area. Keep your ears open for leads. Some other stuff has come out too on that website, The People versus David Berkowitz. But not his Army records. They're not there. Be cats like. That's right. That's right. Be the Nancy Guthrie kidnapper. Come and go like an apparition. No one ever knew you were there. What they completely failed to show you in the John le Carré movies, like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which is very realistic probably, except for the opening scene, which would never happen, but you need to see that. You need to see his character, you need to see the situation. But they don't give you the same sense that these guys, and MI6 in particular, it's not like the movies where they have this palace, this super secure palace, and he goes through 6 locked gates and all that shit. Now he's in. That's not how it works. Your boss has to sneak out of the office and meet you like a prostitute. You have to be a spy in your own country talking to your own boss. There is no difference. When you're that kind of a spy, that's what it doesn't really show. It doesn't really show. They don't really beat you over the head with that. And it's something like in the scene and Alec Guinness is just terrible in that. It's just terrible in Tinker Tailor. The original miniseries, he's terrible. The paranoia, when he's the opening scene, one of the opening scenes where he's having dinner with Roddy McDowell. Roddy, he doesn't know what Roddy's getting at. Roddy doesn't know what George is up to. They're all suspicious of each other because they're all spies. If they even know each other. But they don't create that sense of they have to be spies even in their own country. They're never safe. They're never safe. Ever. Not even safe from each other. They don't really recreate that in the movie. Other than that, it's excellent. My point was this. The new shit has come to light that just solidifies everything I've been telling you. That I discovered completely by accident, only because you people dragged me into it, and I just happened to be researching the whole Nugan Bank thing, and it just popped up at the same time. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's incredible. So, that's what's coming. That's a teaser. I know people were asking for some more Son of Sam. Are you with me? I hope so. Then I can just start doing, So what I'm going to do is, well, Brandy, they go into a lot more detail. Another thing is, the one that's available on YouTube is horribly edited, I think. For one thing, it assumes that you know the story. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. They spend a lot of money on it, and each individual sequence is pretty good. But the editing, so often George goes into flashback, and he's telling 2 back-to-back flashbacks, but you don't know that. You think you're back in present time, and it really screws up your understanding of the chronology. If you're already familiar, if you read the book or you know the chronology, the miniseries is pretty good. But Alec Guinness is absolutely terrible as George Smiley. It's terrible. George doesn't... George may be a sociopath or autistic, but Alec Guinness didn't understand that, and neither did the director. Here's another problem. George Smiley is not the protagonist of that novel. Jim Prideaux is. But Jim Prideaux's gay. So on British TV, he couldn't be a gay protagonist. So they had to make George the protagonist of that story, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. Jim is the protagonist of that story. Smiley, the actor who plays Smiley in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold nails that part perfectly. Alec Guinness doesn't. He hated movie acting, he hated TV acting, and it shows. I think he's an overrated actor. The only thing I've ever seen him in that I care for, really, is Star Wars. But that's just me. That's not my point. They have to be spies even in their own country. All the time. That's the thing. So otherwise, it's good. John le Carré, when you watch A Spy Who Came In From the Cold, it's a really cool movie because the closest thing to a hero is Fiedler, the Jew. The East German, they're not Stasi. That movie takes place before the Stasi starts to really take over from the Abwehr. But it's the same type of thing. It's the first movie that comes right out and says that British and American intelligence consciously employed former Nazis as spies. There are no good guys, but to make it watchable, they put Richard Burton in the role, and he's really good. Alec Leamis, and he plays a 38-year-old drunk who's burned out. And John le Carré said he met a bunch of World War II guys they're just burned out. They were just empty inside. And he actually complained that Richard Burton was too likable in the role. But he has to be likable, otherwise you won't watch the movie. There has to be a spark of humanity left in him, or you wouldn't watch the movie. And Claire Bloom as the fresh-rated little Jewish communist girl. You know, the thing is, she's communist and Fiedler's communist. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but watch that movie 100 times and watch it very carefully. It's very well done. But the director was a Jewish communist, so there's some sympathy in there for the communists. But the thing about the trial is it can't be a kangaroo court for the plot. So there's a really cool poster because between European way of spelling it in English, there's a poster for the soldiers on the Eastern Bloc to recognize NATO uniforms. So it says NATO OTAN. And it just shows that there's really no difference between them. But watch that movie. It's really, really good. I think it's on YouTube free with commercials right now, right? Oh, I know, Baby Bull. I know. I have not seen the movie, Brandy. Is it good? It's a huge story to try to cram into a movie. That's the problem. That's the great thing about the miniseries. Now, the miniseries version that's available to watch online, or at least on YouTube, is edited horribly. All the other actors are top-notch. And then Smiley's People is good. That's the one where George is really the protagonist. But John le Carré based his novels on stories told to him by actual spies. So when you watch The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, Paulson from Personnel, that's John le Carré. He just does a little cameo as he doesn't play the part, but Paulson, and if you look at him, he looks like John le Carré. He worked in Personnel, and he was also a diplomat for a time. And, did intelligence gathering work. Did they really? Right, Brandy, that's a huge story in there. It's really good, too. But they messed it up too much. See, every time they make a movie out of The Great Gatsby, they try to make it a romance. It is not a romance, it is a tragedy. Gatsby's tragic flaw is his unwavering faith in Daisy's essential goodness, which does not exist. That is his flaw. That is his undoing. It is a tragedy, not a romance. It's the greatest novel written in American English. You can read it over the weekend. It's great. Also, it's a frame narrative. Carraway is the one telling us the story. It's important. Well, every time they make a movie out of Wuthering Heights, they don't get it. They try to make it a romance. It's not a romance. It's not even a tragedy. Wuthering Heights is a scalding denunciation of the landholding class in northern England. There aren't any good guys in Wuthering Heights. But it's more, you got to read the book. The book is really cool because it's a double frame narrative. Women were not respected writers in those days. So the cover, the fiction of the novel is she has written to this magazine publisher. They used to publish novels chapter by chapter, and then it would come out in a bound volume. And so she writes there's a cover letter saying, I didn't write this novel. I'm just a weak-minded woman. However, we moved into this old farmhouse called the Grange or whatever, and I found this old manuscript that was written by a man. Don't worry, it was written by a man. And it's about the family that used to own this manor house, and you should read it. Well, the thing is, the manuscript has been written in the third person by a young man, a ne'er-do-well, who's on the run from his gambling debts. So he takes a house in the country for the winter, not for the summer, which is unusual. And he moves into this house. And the family who own the house, they live in the servants' quarters. It's like an Airbnb. They're renting out the house, which they would normally do in the summer, but it's wintertime. So he goes to visit them when he first moves in the house, and they're all just sitting around the fire, staring at the fire, not talking to each other. They'd all hate each other. So he goes back to the house, and he starts up conversations with the housekeeper, and he's asking her, what's the story, Morning Glory? We got nothing else to do all winter. Tell me what's been going down. And so housekeeper tells him the story of these two families, kind of like Romeo and Juliet. These two houses, one called Wuthering Heights, one called the Grange. And about this guy who adopted this boy off the docks in Liverpool, called him Heathcliff, treated him like a son, drove a wedge between himself and all of his other kids, spoiled Heathcliff rotten. Him and his daughter Kathy have an affair. The boy Heathcliff and Kathy have an affair. Oh, it's horrible. But you got to understand. The girl who sends in the manuscript may have edited it. The guy who wrote the manuscript, he's got his point of view. He gets the story third hand from the housekeeper, who, according to the manuscript version by the young man, says, kind of makes it, she really makes it sometimes she's played a major role in this story. Okay? That's how good that book is. I only read it because I was an English major and I had to read it. So I sat down to read it over Christmas break and I couldn't put the stupid thing down. It's great. But you can't make a movie out of it. It has to be a novel. Heart of Darkness, you have to read the book. It's a book. It's a frame narrative. It's a double frame narrative. The guy telling us the story is telling us the story of this one time when Marlowe told a story. You are sitting on the company yacht. You are going to sail around the English Channel ports, all that Calais and all that, inspect the company warehouses and audit the company books. Marlowe is the skipper of the boat. It's a sailing company. It's a shipping company. You're all sailors. You've all got sailing experience, but there's an accountant and there's a lawyer and all these people. And Marlowe. So the guy telling you the story is telling you the story of a time he was sailing on the company. They were waiting for the tide to turn, and Marlowe starts telling a story. And he tells us the story that Marlowe told. And he tells us the story of Marlowe telling the story. That's Heart of Darkness. You have to read the book, and you have to keep all that in mind, because that makes it 10 times more fascinating. The external action, you can read about that and watch 100 jungle adventure movies. It's his impressions of what happens to him. And Marlowe tells his audience, I don't understand the meaning of this story. Maybe if I explain it to you, if I tell you the story, you can tell me the meaning of the story. But the guy who tells us the story about Marlowe telling the story tells us that that's not how it worked with Marlowe. That the meaning of Marlowe's stories was not like the center of a cracked nut, a gleaming light. It was more like a glow that brings out a haze. And then he tells us the story that Marlowe told. The best that he could remember the way Marlowe told it. And Marlowe claims he didn't understand the meaning of the story. The guy telling the story doesn't claim he knows the meaning of the story, but we wonder how much of his own impressions he put on the story. That's what you have to think about. It's like the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. 3 young men on the way to a wedding. This homeless guy grabs one of them and starts telling him the story about the time he shot the albatross. He's like, why did he pick me? Why is he telling me this story? Now, what was your question? Harrison Ford is in the conversation with Gene Hackman. Yes. So the thing about the movie Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, I will have to watch it. I just don't want to pay for it because I know the story. I know how it turns out. But here's the thing, Brandy. I think it's really about Dmitry Polyakov pulling the wool over the CIA's eyes because John le Carré knew far too much about that case because that novel was published in 64 or something, or 50. When did the novel come out? That was years before the Polyakov case came to the public. I'm telling you, he knew all about it. He knew all about it. He knew all about it. But that scene where Jim is briefed and Control tells him, remember, Jim, trust no one. And Jim doesn't trust anyone. Jim doesn't trust anyone. He gets shot in the back anyway. That's a pretty realistic movie, I think. That kind of military intelligence is that high risk. But Jim's supposed to be the main character. But each individual episode is very well done. And Smiley's People is very, very well done. The scene when Kirov first approaches the woman, Ostrakova, and tries to manipulate her into participating in this thing, dangling her daughter. That's exactly how it's done. Watch the link. Click the link in the description of this video to that movie with Ernest Borgnine called Man on a Wire. Yeah, it's just, that's the problem. They tried to change it a little too much. They tried to make George the protagonist. George isn't a good guy. George is possibly the single most ruthless. That's why he might be a match for Carla. Because George has no real empathy. In the series of books, it gives you the feeling, it doesn't come right out and say it, but there's a sense that George always used his wife as a honey trap. That he knew she was cheating on him and he was using her. But did I get your email? I don't know. What was it about? Hold on a second. What was it about, Alpine? I'm too lazy to look. I caught up on all my emails. I may not have answered yours. Also, when did you send it? Information. I need information. Heg? Hi, Nathan. But Tinker Tailor's also a lot about whose side is who... Are the communists winning? There's so many of them. Are they winning? That kind of thing. And the imperialists, the old establishment imperialists, they were just as evil as anybody else. There's a sense of that John le Carré had, that he was really disillusioned. He was really disillusioned when he joined the service. Oh, question about Columbine? I haven't seen it yet. We will talk about Columbine real soon. I will check it. Okay, Brandy, take your time. I've got a lot on my plate. So Berko real soon. Maybe I'll have this person on. This person has already checked themselves in. Automatic junior buckaroo. Maybe senior buckaroo. Maybe they'll come on the show. So I'm gonna have a little confab with them and just see what I have to offer them. Now, I'm going to record this video for Ashley Banfield, and you guys are going to watch me record it, okay? I'm going to do this as much for practice as anything else. Here we go. Hello, I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan. I'm the host and executive producer of the Stones Unturned podcast on YouTube. Recently, retired esteemed journalist Ashley Banfield has taken no end of over her reporting that a source in law enforcement told her that Savannah Guthrie's brother-in-law, I'm not going to name his name, I'm not trying to pick on the guy, was being looked at as a person of interest in the case. And oh my goodness, the roof came in. Dogs were throwing cats. I mean, this woman, Ashley Banfield, took an internet beatdown just for reporting what was apparent. I mean, they impounded the guy's car for a month. If that's not a person of interest, I would like to know what is. So, Ms. Banfield, if you happen to be watching, if you don't have anything better to do, I put together a little presentation to show you why you deserve an apology from the entire internet, okay? I have taken the liberty of examining whatever little evidence has been dribbled out to us. Remember, on February 1st, it was reported Savannah Guthrie had to be ushered dramatically off the set of the Today Show. Or was it the Olympics? It was the Olympics. Wasn't it the Olympics? She'd just gotten back from her vocal cord surgery. That doesn't always work out. Anyhow, boom, family emergency. Her mother is missing. The brother-in-law dropped her off, the son-in-law, it's Savannah's brother-in-law, Savannah's sister's husband, dropped her off in the driveway at 9:47 p.m. the night before, and when she didn't show up at her friend's house, apparently Nancy would get together with her friends and watch TV church, and I believe it was the church that Savannah attends in New York. They are supposedly a very religious family. Well, pretty religious. I'm not knocking it. She didn't show up, so they called the daughter Annie and her husband. They live a few minutes away from Nancy's house, and they've been pretty much the caregivers, 84 years old, very poor health. And she was missing. So they went, and the old lady wasn't there, so they called the sheriff. The sheriff showed up, and they start beating the bushes looking for a lost senior. You know, she's 84 years old, poor health. Maybe she wandered off. Maybe she had a medical emergency. February 2nd, there's a lot of negative reaction on the interwebs, on social media. What a heartless family. They leave the 84-year-old bag all by herself, no nanny cam. There was no video of what happened, no doorbell camera video, and there's nothing. The look was not good. The look was not good. And here we are, 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. February 3rd, we get a fluff piece. Who is Savannah Guthrie's husband? That's a good question, by the way. I won't bore you with it right now. All about corporate consultant Michael Feldman. Corporate consultant Michael Feldman invented crisis management for Bill Clinton and Al Gore. The whole change the narrative, the whole control the narrative, the whole tar the victim. Anybody comes forward, any whistleblower, destroy that person. Any reporter who reports on the story, destroy that reporter. That's Michael Feldman. He invented that. Remember that time that Al Gore claimed that George W. Bush stole the 2000 election? Remember that, stealing elections? Remember that? He wrote that press release. He wrote that speech. He wrote that whole campaign. The time that they claimed that Trump tried to steal the 2020 election, well, it was Michael Feldman. He's still very deeply in the business. Well, that's not a good look, because this is a fluff piece in preparation for an upcoming announcement that Savannah Guthrie's getting another show. She's getting another top gig. She's going to host a game show with Jimmy Fallon based on the Wordle board game. But they can't announce this because her mother has turned up missing. And this puff piece has gone out. As a matter of course, it was scheduled to go out. You know how it works. Ms. Banfield knows more about this than I do. You know how it works. This is a bad look. I mean, she's the biggest star that NBC has left. You can't have this. Jimmy Fallon can't be associated with some heartless woman. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. The public impression was bad. So we need to change the narrative. Fortunately, Savannah happens to be married to the guy who invented changing the narrative when shit hits the fan like this. We have to change the narrative. She did not wander off and die due to neglect. Something else must have happened. Something else must have happened. Well, eventually, by May the 12th, sheriff accused of botching Nancy Guthrie case, Dodger's meeting about claims he committed perjury. They just trash the local investigators. They trash the sheriff, who, by the way, could not possibly have gotten the nomination, let alone get elected, without massive support from Democrats. Savannah Guthrie of Tucson, Arizona, her husband, Michael Feldman, still a top Democratic Party consultant and operative, and, of course, Savannah's good friend from high school, apparently, Senator Mark Kelly. He could not have gotten elected sheriff, and he couldn't keep his job now without support from those people. But here they are trashing him and his investigation. He just completely blew the whole thing. He overlooked glaringly obvious evidence. He has perjured himself. Oh my goodness. Well, I just thought it was kind of funny that this dingleberry on the doorbell camera that we saw, we're going to take another look. I thought it was funny that he already has a top-tier TV defense attorney and crisis manager working in his camp, because that's what a defense attorney and a crisis manager do. That's the first thing they do for a high-priced defendant. They start trashing law enforcement. They trash the prosecutor's office. They get all the dirt, all the personal. You know how, you're a journalist. You know how it is. You know how this works. What's the first thing they do? They go after the investigators. They go after the prosecutor. They go after the victims. I just thought it was really gracious of Savannah and her family to offer their services, because a lot of people don't know this, but Savannah is a top-tier criminal defense attorney. What, top of her class? Or, magna cum laude, Georgetown University Law School. Top of her bar exam class, number 1. Aiken Gump. Aiken Gump defends people like Leon Black and Enron executives. In fact, those were the cases when she worked there. She's a litigator. I just thought it was really gracious of them to provide their services for free to this alleged kidnapper, because that's what they're doing. Any suspect who's arrested now on the basis of what? Evidence gathered by the sheriff's office? Well, you just completely destroyed that case. I'm just a dumb old English professor, but in the English department, we call that irony. Well, you mean this investigation? February 16th, all Guthrie siblings and spouses officially cleared as suspects in Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping. Sheriff's office, Sheriff Nano's office. Is that the botched investigation that you were dragging him through the mud over? The investigation that cleared your brother-in-law? We have another word for that in the English department. Oh, what a tangled web we weave, counselor. What does this have to do with Ashley Banfield? Well, all Ashley Banfield said was that her sources said that the brother-in-law and this were being looked at as persons of interest. That's all. And it turned out to be true. But speaking of botched investigations into glaringly obvious clues, let's take a look at a couple. Was this whole kidnapping a hoax? I know a little something about hoaxes. You don't care, but I have been on TV. I've been on TV almost as much as Savannah. I know a little something about hoaxes. I've been an insurance fraud investigator. I've been a journalist. I've been all kinds of investigator. I didn't go to Georgetown University Law School or graduate magna cum laude, not in law. I was just homeschooled by lawyers and judges and congressmen and newspaper publishers, bankers. Is this thing a hoax? Because speaking of fake videos, what is Dingleberry trying to do here exactly? Is he just trying to act suspicious? Act suspicious. He looks like somebody who's just barely smart enough to watch Breaking Bad, or not Breaking Bad, I don't know. I don't watch those TV shows. One thing you'll notice is he's bow-legged as... You'll also notice he's about 5'9" or 5'10". You'll also notice he's wearing several layers of clothes in order to disguise his weight. Either that or he ironed his sweatpants before he came out that evening. Now, what information could we possibly glean from this, and why would this possibly point to Savannah's brother-in-law? This was a pattern of bloodstains that were eventually found by somebody. The first people who we know noticed them were a local TV news crew from News Nation, went to the house February 3rd, about 11:05 a.m., live streaming, walked up to the door. There's no police tape. There's no nothing. You've seen that video. I'll show you a still frame in a second. There's some blood drops across the porch, and then there's a cluster of blood drops right outside the door. And there's some aspirated blood, like she was coughing up blood. And the test confirmed that this was her blood, Nancy's blood. So here's the prime theory. The theory goes that Dingleberry went to the doorbell and got Nancy to come to the door. Okay, this is from the outside view. This law enforcement person right here in this arched doorway, they're playing the role of Dingleberry in this shot. The Dingleberry, okay, here, you see the trail of blood drops, and then there's kind of clustered here, and then there's this little bit of blood, and there's some aspirated blood here. You'll notice that on February, it looks like the cops didn't even pick up the mat and take it in for fiber. Look, they didn't even, look, Amazon's been there. There's an Amazon package has been delivered. I'm not going to go into picking apart the Guthrie family stories about when they changed their story. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with this theory. Here's what they think happened. She came to the door. She got karate kicked in the chest or something, fell down, coughed up blood, and then she was either dragged or forced or crawled or whatever down to the sidewalk, placed into a vehicle, and abducted around 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. Well, if we look very carefully, and just a tiny bit of help from Photoshop and AI to clarify this image, we can clearly see these are terracotta tiles. They have rather uneven texture. I'm sure you've stumbled over some at some point. Go to Home Depot and you can't walk on the floor, but they try to sell it to you. Maybe not as old as I am. So here you see this shadowing effect. You see this burst. You can't see that, I'm on radio. You see this bursting, and where there's sort of a hump in the tile here, you see that very distinct semicircular ring where this blast has been stopped by a very, very low hump in the tile. And you see it again in some other places, like along this bead of mortar here in between the tiles. This lets us know that she was very, very close to the ground with her head turned to the side. Because otherwise it'd just be a spray like this, like a garden sprinkler, but it went poof, like this. And okay, so we know her face was very close to the ground. We know that she owned an Apple Watch and she wore it on her left wrist. If she fell and was on the ground, maybe even the fall caused a if that's what happened, her Apple Watch might have actually been the cause of her death. Well, my point is this. If we look at the video evidence that's been released to the public, we can clearly see that the kidnapper returned to the scene of the crime 3 to 4 hours after this blood was left on the porch. Do you see that? You see the very round, very dark, red, round drops. Some of them are small because they dripped from a very low height. Some of them are bigger because they dripped from a higher height. And they look like they're in clusters of 3s at each height level. But we'll come back to that some other time. You don't need to see that. You see this tread mark from some kind of shoe where someone has stepped in some blood that hasn't dried yet? Well, let's enhance that just a hair. You can see this. You see the blood that's been drying for at least 3 or 4 hours, given the atmospheric conditions at the time, given the condition of the medications that the patient was taking. You see this fresher blood. You see how it has some semi-congealed, let's face it, it's like pudding skin that gets on a drop of blood, that had been trapped in the grooves of this rubber doormat that had these grooves and humps in it, kind of like a sun, like the rays of the sun. You see them at the hardware store. They're all over. It's all the hardware stores. You've seen them. And yet, none of these dried blood drops were smeared. So we know that the other blood was dry when he stepped on it, but the blood that he left when he stepped on the mat was there about 3, maybe 4 hours, maybe 24 hours. That's very hard to believe. It would have to be a significant amount. Well, if you look carefully at the surveillance video, you can see that the dingleberry in question is wearing Merrill Nova shoes, probably Model 3s, and this is the soles of the Model 3s. And if you watch the video carefully, I won't waste your time. I know you're busy. You're a real journalist, and I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. But you'll see him make a little stutter step when he turns away from the camera. So he's double tapped. He's picked up some blood, and it's gotten between some of these grooves in his sole. Okay, there's blood in between the grooves. And when he steps down, he kind of does a double step, and it leaves this double stamp impression. So we know that the dingleberry camera performance was performed about 3 to 4 hours after the blood was originally spilled. See, here he is. You can see his left foot clearly standing on the mat. There's another frame, see, where he first begins to make his turn. And he has placed, again, when you watch the videos, he's clearly very bow-legged, the poor fellow, almost as if he came from a third world country. And you can see he tends to touch the outside of his shoe more than, okay, I think I made my point. The point is this. Why did he come back 3 to 4 hours later? You see? Why did he come back 3 to 4 hours later? Well, what does this prove? If you freeze frame a couple more frames, if his body and his leg are in the right place to screen off a lot of that glare coming from the lights, because the camera's in night vision mode, it's picking up infrared, and blood and terracotta are the exact same color in infrared. But if you block a lot of that glare away, see, look, the blood stains were already there when he came back to do his little shtick on the video. And see, you can see those grooves in the... You can almost tell where he might have stepped in some blood on the mat. But the point is, it was already there. Now, the family released video of attending a memorial service. This is the son-in-law. He is 5'9" to 5'10". If you put an extra pair of pants on him, he'd be about the same weight. The contention is that the son-in-law is also severely bow-legged, and I'm not making fun of him when I say that, but I think it's important. Watch him walk. Watch the way he has to throw his... See, it's almost like he also has a hip problem, because he's had these knee problems since he was a child. Watch the way he throws his left leg in front of his right leg, and look at the way Dingleberry does it. You see it. You see the motion of his leg when he's walking. You can really see him just habitually have to throw that leg. There's another internet know-it-all who did an even more extensive video on this. That's a pretty glaringly obvious clue, in my opinion. Now, the shoes were Merrill Novas. The only shoes we've seen the brother-in-law wearing are Adidas. There are 2 different pairs of Adidas, so apparently he likes Adidas shoes. Okay? That comes from these videos here. Now, this is not enough of a movement to really tell, but he kind of does that. When he turns, he does, but he's a, and here's this little video clip here. These are he's a teacher. These are fun little videos they made for their students. There's other teachers made these videos too. According to AI and these old Photoshop eyes, there's this other frame where Dingleberry's not wearing the backpack and he's not wearing the toy gun in the holster. He looks like he's wearing Adidas shoes. That's difficult to prove, but it looks like he might be wearing Adidas shoes. So there's 2 glaringly obvious clues. Now, I took the liberty of doing this. I'm an experienced photographer. I took the liberty of doing this. Where did it go? Did it? There it is. Now, watch carefully. I'm just checking all I'm checking is the proportions of the eyes, the distance between the pupils, down the triangle with the nose, and the placement of the teeth in the upper jaw. You can't go by the lower jaw because it moves. Hair. Look at those proportions. It's not conclusive, but it can rule somebody out. Let me see if we can rule out the brother-in-law. That seems to be identical. That seems to be identical. That seems to be identical. That doesn't prove anything, but it doesn't rule him out. Should he be sent to prison for life on the basis of this evidence? Of course not. That is not my point. My point is these are glaringly obvious clues that might point to a person known to the victim. And if the blood was, if it's true that that doorbell video is from approximately 1:47 a.m. and he obviously returned several hours after the blood was originally shed, and that puts it very close to the time when he said he dropped her off in the driveway. That's another clue. Last person to admit seeing her alive. Well, what about the kidnap car? It turns out the neighbor's doorbell cameras did get a little video. Now, you may have seen this frame, and people have tried to identify this vehicle. Some people think it might be a Ford F-150. Some people think it might be a Honda CR-V. You will notice that this video happens to have a time and date stamp, which are missing from the video of Dingleberry. Well, there's the frame before this caught a better view. Some people think it's a F-150, but also it could be a Honda CR-V. Okay, here's the CR-V. It could be a CR-V. I have a comparison. It could be an F-150 almost. You know, depending on the timing of these electronic shutters in these cameras, you can kind of see how it might be a F-150, the electric one, but not quite. It's just not quite the same. It's just not quite the same. But there's another frame, the frame before. See, the car is coming towards the camera and then turning before it gets to the house. The car is making a turn. So if you look very carefully at what the front of the car, the light configuration obviously looked like, this is obviously a Honda CR-V. This is nothing but a Honda CR-V. So that Honda CR-V drove past that neighbor's doorbell camera at 2:36 a.m., which would be 8 minutes past the time when the pacemaker last successfully pinged the phone. So what? The son-in-law owns a Honda CR-V. A blue late model CR-V has not been returned to the family as of March 11th. I don't think it's out of line to suggest that a source close to the investigation may have indeed revealed to Ms. Banfield that the son-in-law was a person of interest in the case. I don't think it's that out of line. So what? Well, maybe that explains why Savannah has been acting as Dingleberry's defense attorney this whole time. Maybe. Maybe. Here's the thing. I'm not accusing him of bumping the old lady off. I'm not accusing him of anything. All I'm saying is, I think Savannah's right. I think some glaringly obvious clues have been overlooked in this case if they're going to say that the son-in-law has no reason for him to be a suspect. I think they have bungled the investigation. But whatever. I'm not saying he bumped the old lady off in the first place. I don't see evidence of a crime. The guy in the video is not committing a crime. It is not against the law to walk up to someone's front door and ring the doorbell, even at 1:47 in the morning. It's annoying, but it's not against the law. Maybe you could say he tampered with the doorbell. That's kid stuff. It's 8 hours of community service stuff. 16 hours of community service stuff. It's not foul play. What I see evidence of is death by natural causes, and not only natural causes, it was by far the most likely way this poor old lady was going to die anyway. This is a photograph from the summer of 2023. This is 2.5 years before she disappeared. You see the severe edema in her lower left arm. You see the Apple Watch. So what? She had a pacemaker. she was on high-strength blood thinners, and at the time of her disappearance, she was suffering from severe chronic back pain, so she was taking NSAIDs as well. If he actually, here's the thing, the Uber driver picked her up from the front door, not the garage door. When he pulled in the driveway, the garage door opened and closed automatically because he had one of the sensor in the car. The house detected the car pulling up in the driveway, or maybe it detected Nancy pulling up in the driveway. But if let's say he actually dropped her off at the front sidewalk, and let's say she stumbled as she reached for that rail, and she fell like this, her skin and blood were so thin, it would be very easy to break that skin and start getting a little drip, drip, drip going. Those are little drops, very thin blood. If she fell against that railing as she reached for it and fell like this, I forgot to put my watch on. Let me put my watch on so you can see this. We saw her wearing her Apple Watch on her left wrist. If she fell like this and tried to stop herself, these watches that with the wireless charging, if you get that within 6 inches of a pacemaker, that'll cause the pacemaker to go into charging mode. The problem with that is it doesn't go berserk, but it will lock in at 85 beats per minute while it's in charging mode, because you have to take the charger and hold it like this and charge up your pacemaker. When it does that, if the heart is already in a natural rhythm, the pacemaker it'll fire anyway, whether it's needed or not, and it will throw it off, and you can get this problem. And if she's already suffering from congestive heart failure, and it looks like it, that's why she has a pacemaker, look at that edema. It'd be so easy for her to cut herself, bump into something, and just tear the skin. If that happens, that would explain the pulmonary edema. Even just being on blood thinners and NSAIDs in her condition could lead to pulmonary edema. The blood gets so thin it just starts seeping into the lungs, and it would creep up on her. Or maybe she just tripped and fell. And if she fell and pinned her left arm under her like this till she could get up, it's going to send her pacemaker into charging mode, and this causes pacemaker syndrome, which is not instantly fatal. She would just be, ugh, and it just falling, she could cough up that much blood. She might have a little bit of blood in her lungs all the time anyway. It was very thin blood. But this is what happened. So, see? So if the son-in-law ran to help her up, okay, I checked this out. It took 20 minutes for the sheriff's deputies to get there. The nearest hospital or ambulance station is 20 minutes away. 5 minutes to pack her up and 20 minutes back to the hospital. She doesn't have that long to live. And I think he probably knows this. He's a science teacher. I think he rushed up, helped her up. She's 150 pounds. You can't pick up 150 pounds of dead person off the ground by yourself. But if she'd still be conscious, she'd have some strength left. She was fairly strong. Her life hung by a thread, that's all. But when she was up and around, she was up and around. Her walker was put away. I think she only used her walker. She was recovering from some other surgery, right? She was pretty tough in a way. But her life this is how it was going to end probably anyway. So if he picked her up and said, come on, Mom, we got to get you to the hospital. We got to get you to the hospital right now. Help, come on, I'll get you to... And she would have enough strength that with his help, she could get back to the car. And they take off for the hospital as fast as possible. Doesn't waste time calling 911, just wants to get to the emergency room as fast as possible. And she dies along the way. That's probably how she was going to die anyway. And maybe even when he picked her up and was helping her after she fell, maybe her pacemaker, he was holding her, come on, Ma, let's get you in the car. And that caused the pacemaker to go crazy. It's the most likely way she was going to die anyway. Now, he's an immigrant. Been here 20 years, but he's an immigrant at a time when it's not cool to be an immigrant. This is his mother-in-law. Who's going to believe this was an accident? Just put yourself in his shoes for a minute. He didn't panic. She's already in the car. If I take her to the emergency room, I might get blamed, or worse, it might bring shame on the whole family. He's from the old country. He's from Tuscany. He's born and raised in Tuscany. That's why he's so bow-legged. Grew up poor. Old country. Family honor is everything. If he is blamed for her death, that brings shame on the whole family. His family, when he married into Savannah or Annie's family, they're his family in his mind. That's his mother. Savannah's his sister. He would stick his neck out to protect Savannah's good name. He would. And he didn't bump the old lady off. But you can understand how he might worry about people might think he did. And if Annie is a jeweler, she's got potassium cyanide laying around. Did her mom help her? Did she try on the jewelry? A tiny little bit of cyanide on a cookie or a brownie would be enough to make her so sick that it could trigger this. I mean, her delicate. He has all this in his mind. Now, if he cleans up the blood, that's going to look 10 times as suspicious because he knows they're going to find that. What can he do? He has to stage a disappearance. She must have gotten sick and wandered off. That's all he can think to do. So he has to hide the body. I'm not suggesting he dumped the body in a ditch. I think he placed the body someplace with the greatest love and care he could physically. I think he went to see his priest and got some holy water and did whatever. I think he did the best he could. As a matter of fact, if you're looking for the body, find out where her husband's buried and start zooming out and just zoom out and look for places, because I'll bet if this is hypothetical, if this is what happened, I'll bet you he tried to put her body as close to her husband's body as he could possibly get it. Close to his grave as he could get it. If this is what happened. And then I think this is the most likely explanation, period. Because it fits all of the evidence. For whatever it's worth, Ashley Banfield, I think you were completely justified. Because if this guy hasn't been looked at as a person of interest, I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest he ought to be looked into as a person of interest, don't you? Well, good luck. Keep up the good work, and don't let the bastards get you down. I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan. I'm not in your league, but I'm on your side. So are my boosters. I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan, asking you to please stay plugged in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
He reads everything.
Put that wherever you want it. Oh, okay, you guys are still there. That's right, I stopped recording. What do you think? Okay. Hi, Walter. Yeah, the neighbor said that the cops they had to shove it down the cops' throat and hand it over to the media. The reason they're not looking for the suspect is because they already know who he is. So I'll get off this case for a minute and get on Berko. But there are things about Savannah's husband that clue right into what we're doing anyway. Yeah, I just thought it was horse shit. She took a lot of shit over that. And obviously she was 100% right. Oh, thanks, guys. See, when I get a little bit of practice. Oh, now here's the big news. Here's the thing. I went ahead, I scammed Microsoft out of one more free month. The only reason I need the PowerPoint desktop app is because of doing this on the show. However, I'm not going to do this anymore so much. What I need to do is, I don't need to pay. The only reason I would pay for it is just for the desktop app, which has problems. It's not perfect. Okay, Brandy. It's all right. It'll be all right. What I'm going to do is, I built my own PowerPoint presentation player. PowerPoint presentation player for you guys. Actually, I built it to make tutorials, how-to tutorials for this website I've been working on with these people that I'm going to show you soon. So I built this PowerPoint player, and what you can do is there's a built-in AI chatbot, but it has to be Copilot, which is now finally not too bad. Here's how the website's going to work. I'm going to upload all my existing PowerPoints. And you can subscribe, probably $10 a month or whatever. You guys especially get a cheap deal. Maybe you guys get like $50 lifetime subscription. Then you can just view the PowerPoints as they exist, and I go through and I update them. And I'm going to add narrations, but you'll have all of the videos will be here. But see, the videos don't, and PowerPoints aren't perfectly matched up at this time. I don't want to do that. I want the PowerPoints to be what's cool about a PowerPoint in kiosk mode is you can flip through it, and then I can embed links where it's like, oh, remember that time I mentioned Son of Sam, and you can click, there'll be a link and it takes you to that PowerPoint. And you can, open it in another window. And then the AI bot will be there. So you can ask it questions about the information that's in that slide or all the information across the whole PowerPoint. You can ask the AI questions about it. You can use my PowerPoints to do your research. Someday there will be audio. There's a lot of information missing. The slide is there, but my narration isn't there. As I go through and re-edit them, I'm going to try to narrate each slide individually. That way I can move slides around and reorder them, and I can just keep the slides updated for as long as I'm alive, and you guys will always have the most updated information for your research. But those won't be episodes of the show. They will be on YouTube. Because no username, there's 647. No. There are very specific reasons because I need PowerPoint to work on my player. PowerPoint's great. I'm just not, I would only have, and the PowerPoints that will be displayed on this website that will cost me about 50 cents a month to maintain. I shouldn't have told you that. Depends on how many users. But, money. I need money. Money. No, the thing is, the thing is, they have to be stored online in a Microsoft Cloud account to be played on my player. No other. The only reason I pay for the app is to use this PowerPoint player to do the show. But I need to start using my own custom player because it works better anyway. I just got to finish doing it. I need to create the version for the Stones Unturned podcast because it's the PowerPoint player I created. So for the website, it isn't just about how to do each individual thing on the website. It has to explain why you would use this website in the first place. And that's a very complicated explanation. It's for all kinds of people. It's for schools and institutions. It's for homeschoolers. It is for tutors. It is for, you can create your own courses. And I created it to offer people my own courses. But the next step now, it's pretty much done. The next step now is to create the how-to tutorials because a lot of people don't even know why they would use a platform like this in the first place. So that's going to take a while. But in the meantime, I can just create a new page, just create one more page on my site, on this site, and just get it its own URL. And bada boom, bada bing, there we are. And people can do their research based on I've already got all my PowerPoints. There's about 350 of them uploaded to the cloud storage already. I just need to offer it to you and start charging you money. It's all about the money. So the Berkowitz stuff it's not just the icing on the cake. It fills in blanks. It fills in blanks that you didn't think had anything to do with Son of Sam. I couldn't believe the quality of this material. And it's not just the new stuff on that website, which is priceless. We haven't even gotten through all of the... So let me finish building. I don't know if I'll do an episode every day. And I'll finish building my custom... It's built. I just, like I said, I got to... What will happen is you'll pay a low monthly subscription fee, and then if you want to use the AI tools, you will buy tokens from me at a huge, obscene markup. And then you just buy those as you want to use them to do whatever research you want to do based on my PowerPoints. At this point in time, you probably wouldn't want to spend a lot of money. But see, what you see on the show, and I narrate, I've got notes and I've got sources and I've got text and stuff embedded in these slides that you'll have access to when I get the player up and running for you. Does that make sense? And now we have to deal with the death of Douglas McCain. A hint? I don't want to piss this person off. It's not a Manny situation, but this person has been very gracious, kicking down my door, trying to get my attention with this stuff. So, and hopefully they'll maybe even come on the show because they're very knowledgeable. It's really exciting. I just don't want to blow it. And I don't want to, there you go. There you go, Walter. Have I got a platform for you? You will see. It'll really be ready next year. I mean, it's ready now, but the insurance companies don't know where it's falling out right now. So we're just going to wait. Just going to wait a few months and just get a few early adopters. But you wouldn't want it now. But you might know some people who would want to use it. It's incredibly powerful and flexible and very affordable. And like so we can offer, if you want to start your own school, an accredited school, if you're a qualified teacher, if you have a teaching certificate in your state, we can help you start your own accredited school. Very affordable. It usually costs around $100,000 in consulting fees. If you just pay to use the service, we give you the consulting for free, usually, to get the accreditation. And it's really going to be, it's very exciting for handicapped learners, differently abled learners. We're so far out in front of everybody else. But see, Canvas got hacked and blah, 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 blah. So we're just going to hold off on the marketing till next year. And that gives me time to get the tutorials, because I'm beginning to realize I have to educate people. Homeschoolers, you don't even know, most homeschoolers don't know what an LMS is. Blah, blah, blah. And this is so much more than an LMS. So that's that's my job. This is my hobby. Thank you very much. And tonight I'm gonna get off here right now. I'm gonna get on to the Guthrie family history and their mining. There's two, I'm sure she's nice. However, does that make sense? Berko. Putting Guthrie to bed for a minute. Okay. So that will be the next members only is going to be, realistically, I'm going to take a look at the Guthrie family, going to take a look at Savannah's husband and why they might be moving heaven and earth to control this narrative. Finding alien human hybrids, outstanding. But yes, find out if Manny really does have Berkowitz's DD-214. And thanks, 47. You're pretty awesome yourself. So if they have his military records, find out what unit he was actually in when he went to Korea. That would be great. Is that it for tonight? I think that's it for tonight. I'm going to get that video uploaded as a special episode. Maybe she'll watch it. Ballard. Put an R in there. Ballard. Like mallard duck, but with a B. A hint. Remember, Jesus Christ. Spy satellites. What-a-files. Horrible what-a-files. Mount Shasta. Sam Walton. Sam Carr. Fighter pilots. Fighter pilots. What's his name's dad was a fighter pilot. What's his name's dad was a fighter pilot. Alpine, a hint, a hint. No, you're right. How's that for a hint? That's all you get. What was your question? A hint on, Columbine. Columbine. Well, what's going to happen, Alpine, is I'm very close to plugging it all in. If they would stop kidnapping old bags and dumping them off at the... Oh, I know. I forgot to... Two things to do. Two things to do. Damn it, I forgot to... Maybe I'll re-record that video. Because I forgot to suggest that, number one, you search near where Savannah's father's buried. And number two, use your contacts as a journalist to find out if any indigents were buried or cremated in the week after Sonny Boy was interrogated by the cops. That's what I would do. I would look... Eric Harris's dad, Alpine, that's right. His dad was a fighter pilot, right? So is Mark Kelly. So is Savannah's brother. So was D-Mac's dad. You're not being a pest. I'm just being sarcastic. A hint. A hint. What can I tell you? The whole fucking ball of wax. No. Sam Walton. So it's actually not going to be that complicated, but a hint is complicated. Do you understand? I need to put the slides together, and I need to show them to you on the new slide player, because it's the thing that plugs. Remember in Christmas Vacation, we plugs the thing and the switch at the same time, and boom, the whole thing lights up at once. The whole Christmas tree is going to light up at once. It isn't just the industry. It isn't just the personal relationships. It's also the cult. The thing I really got to get the slides done on is I believe I have specifically narrowed down the very specific cult that ties them all together in addition to all the other ties. That's what I'm working on. Yeah. So the Ballards were the ones, remember John Bonet. That's it. John Bonet. There are two different branches of the Ballards. There's Guy Ballard, sometimes pronounced Ballard, or Guy Ballard, of the I Am movement. It ties in Zodiac. They wanted who do the 911 if they survived the assault on the school? And it's very specific about the spy satellites. It's very specific. And it ties directly to Donna Lauria. and Carl Denaro. And the new stuff from this person, their name's not a secret. They're a journalist. They're an independent journalist. So let me just get with that person. I haven't had the actual conversation with him yet. Well, I'm going to get off here and eat supper. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. I will get this video uploaded. It makes a nice episode anyway. Oh, not Danny Casolaro, the other guy. Danny Casolaro? Or was Danny Casolaro the subject of the thing? They mentioned flying planes into buildings in New York for a terrorist attack. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We've never really scraped into... See, one of the cases I was going to do after I debunked all the silly Son of Sam stuff was going to be going back to Columbine. So I've got a lot of stuff on that already. We'll be ready to go. Just remember, 99% of what you think you know about those guys were videos they made of themselves in character. Kind of like the Manson family. Don't forget that. Exactly like the Manson family. Oh, you got to take the sarcasm with the sweet, Albine. How long have you been watching the show? Who are you, and what have you done with Alpine? That's it. That's it. Oh, the William Branham thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. But William Branham is just one conduit of the cult. But he's a major one. And there's people that's there are people that they don't know they're being used by the cult, maybe. Or people, this was how they encountered the cult, was maybe through William Branham. Maybe it was through somebody else, see? Maybe it's through Guy Ballard. See, we got to talk about Savannah's sister. Now we got to talk about Savannah's sister. Not that it necessarily proves anything, but the only reason I spent so much time on this case was, number one, it was fun to crack it. And number two, it ties in with what we're talking about. And the whole recent missing UFO scientist horse shit. Oh, that's very important, Brandy. So that's why a lot of people got hooked into the cult, was they got, not that necessarily William Branham was out to do that, but you see what I'm saying? Kansas City prophet. Oh yeah, but see, he didn't start it. See, the problem is you know nothing about Zionism. And the reason you know nothing about Zionism is because you know nothing about the Holocaust. And the reason you know nothing about the Holocaust is because you know nothing about Wolfie Schicklgruber. Once you understand the real Wolfie Schicklgruber, then you'll know the real Holocaust. And when you understand the real Holocaust, then you'll understand the real history of Zionism. And that takes us right back to Ballard. That takes us right back to Sam Walton. That takes us right back to Joseph Smith. Magical Mystery Church YouTube channel. Oh, really? Magical Mystery Church YouTube channel. YouTube. I still haven't had time to watch Rick and Morty. No spoilers. Thank you very much. YouTube. The magical what now? Magical. The Magical Mystical Church. There's a song called Magical Mystical. Okay, the Magical Mystery Church. Magical Mystery Church. Magical Mystery Church. Okay, here's the channel. I'll put that in, I'll put that in the description. I need to get off here and get some work done. That's just one link, Alpine. That's just one link. That's only one Ballard. You won't believe it. Remember, Kate Griggs's lawyer was named Ballard. Remember, I have to recut that whole 8-hour interview with her. Remember the way she described the parties, the initiation orgies of the new intelligence general officers? They sound precisely, exactly, in every detail, exactly how Diddy did it. Where did Diddy get the idea? You'll find out on the Stones Unturned podcast. Thanks, Walter. Thanks for plugging in. Thanks to everybody. So let me get off here and get some work done. Have a good night. God bless. Take care of yourselves and each other. And please, for the love of Berko, where's the theme? Where's the closing theme? Please stay plugged in to the Stones Unturned podcast. There we go. I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan, asking you to please stay plugged in to the Stones Unturned podcast.
He reads everything.
But I bet your bippies he reads everything.